Without further ado, I'd like to invite him to the stage.
Well, thank you. Good morning. So I live and work in a small town of Latrobe, Pennsylvania. And for those of you who might know, so I love this drive from Latrobe back in Pittsburgh because I feel like I'm driving from one of Mr. Rogers' neighborhood, his childhood one, to the other. And so this entire drive kind of moves in between Fred's places. So I'm noticing that I'm standing on a spot, not only with the microphone, but with the sun right in here. So it feels almost like a spotlight. And I was sitting there thinking that Mr. Rogers always says that life's most important moments rarely happens under the spotlight. So this is not the most important part of this morning. So, in fact, I think that's what I was hoping to share with you, kind of what we have found important away from the spotlight in so many areas of our work. But first, I just want to, first of all, you're all invited to come to the Fred Rogers Center. We have a full exhibit of Fred's program, but if you come on a day where we can be available, we can actually show you the real treasure, which is the archive, Fred's archive, his original handwritten notes and scripts and all of that. And if you grew up, watching the show at any part, I think it'll be just kind of a thrilling experience, which we still do whenever we walk into the archival room. So anyhow, back to the subject of courage. I just have to honestly admit that when Nathan told me that the theme they would like me to speak about is courage, my first thought was, I don't know anything about courage. I don't talk about courage. I barely even think about courage. And most of our work and most of our audiences are in the field of child development. So whenever we are stuck in that way, like when we don't know what we even think about something, we start by asking the question, well, what did Mr. Rogers say about that? And right away, I think just this phrase, his voice just pops in my head. It was, I believe it was 1999, towards the end of Fred's career, he was inducted into the Television Hall of Fame, I believe. And so he had this acceptance speech, right? And towards the end of his acceptance speech, he asked a question of all of kind of television media. But I think the question applies to probably everybody, regardless whether you're in media or not. And strangely, it touched upon the question of courage. So let me show you. So the question he asked was, how do we make goodness attractive? And then he answers it by saying, by doing whatever we can to bring courage to those whose lives move near our own. And just like many of the things that Fred would say, that's one of those things that seem enigmatic. Like, but wait, what does it mean? What does it mean to bring courage? Like, what do we understand about courage? And what does it mean to bring it, right, to those whose lives move near our own? Like, who are they? Who are the people whose lives move near our own, right? And I think, I heard the phrase, it's imprinted in my mind for years, but I don't think it took me a long time to understand what he was actually talking about. And so anyhow, I wanted to bring that over, not as an answer, but just as a question. Like, what does it mean to bring courage to those whose lives move near our own? Right? And in addition to that, I thought, as I was thinking about it, what does courage look like in our work? Not what we do, but the people we happen to encounter. Like, if I were to picture courage, what would that be? And it's very unusual, right? So typically you think of courage as bravery, bravery in battle, or rescuers, or police officers, and so on. But I think one of the first things that popped to my mind immediately is something that you all, probably every single one of you, drove by this morning, whether you noticed or not, the crossing guards in Pittsburgh, I mean, I drove one by right on Akeley. I was like, oh, right there, right? So, but anyway, let me just share with you a moment of a typical day in Pittsburgh. If you stand on any street corner, I think you would see it, but I just wanted to bring it here because we had a chance to work with the Pittsburgh crossing guards last year.
Good morning. I like you here. Go ahead. Where's your jacket at?
I'm not cold.
You ain't cold? Okay. Where's your, I know, see, you got a jacket, huh? He said, I am. Good morning. She's grown up to be so beautiful. Look at her. Wow. I know. Wow. She looks just like you. That's your twin right there. Oh my. Good morning. Y'all go to the high school?
Yes.
All right. Have a blessed day.
Thank you.
You're welcome, baby. And your lips is shivering.
All we care is about your face.
That's it, me too. That's the worst time when my face is cold. Yeah, it feel like, oh, mama, shh. I wish I could just warm you up.
But if it's just like my hands, I'm good.
Okay.
My face is cold.
Well, hurry up in then. It's time to go in, okay? Good morning.
Right.
Good morning. So, when are you going to know about the election? When you going to know if you won or not?
Okay.
Oh, huh. I got my fingers crossed for you. Even though I didn't get a cupcake, but I got my fingers crossed. Good morning, guys. Oh, your nails. Let me see your nails. All right, now. Let me see y'all of yours. All right, now. Go now. It's your bad self. You cold?
Fall baby.
You a fall baby?
Yeah, my birthday's November.
See, I hold traffic for you. Good morning, baby girl. I like your little bun. Your mom did your hair? Tell her I give her 100%.
So if you don't mind, I need to make a tiny adjustment on the audio, but I wanted to give you a chance. If you don't mind, just turn to a neighbor of yours, behind you, in front of you. I just want you to talk about, well, you can talk about whatever you want, but the question that I'm curious to see what you think is, why do you think she does what she does? Because it's not in the job description of a crossing guard to do what she does. So if you don't mind, just turn to a neighbor for just a minute and just talk about how it struck you, and I'll make this quick adjustment. I hate to interrupt you because I feel like I'm interrupting the most important part of the morning, but I hope the conversation go on. But I don't know if any of you mind just sharing I mean, you can share whatever thoughts you have, but I was just curious about kind of what you think, like, why does she do what she does? I mean, why? Like, that's not part of her job. But you probably have seen so many crossing guards doing just that. So, go ahead.
Whether you're positive or negative, it takes the same amount of time or energy. So, it's more fun to be positive.
Okay. Go ahead.
It makes me think of, I've heard Peter Sellers talk about this, that there are components of your day that you do for free because they bring you joy. And I know when I was in a job that I was just very miserable in, to think of the things that I did that brought me joy were things like that, the interaction with another human being that was positive.
I was going to say, I think she loves her community, and I think she loves the kids. And for her, like, to stand out in the rain, the snow, the cold, like, you have to care about the people. You're not just doing that job. I mean, those jobs don't pay a whole lot, so you really have to love people. And I don't know how many people have a crossing guard mentor in their life, but I still remember my elementary school crossing guard. She was a part of our lives.
Go ahead. There's an element of that that I see that is nourishing her. That she is there nourishing others. She's watching somebody, as my partner Masha said, acknowledging their humanity, acknowledging their existence, and they reflect that back to her, and that nourishes her. So I see this as a mutual nourishing.
I don't know if it's been said or not because it's kind of echoey hard to hear, but we were kind of talking about how she's going to be out in the weather anyway, and so if you just kind of decide in your head, this experience is going to be what I let it be, so why not like uplift other people while I'm doing this work? Plus it seems very good that you have a heart full of love.
That's right. That's right. I think, so when I heard the theme courage, right, instinctively I think of Miss Paula. I know it's not the usual profile of courage. And so then I have to think, well, why did I think of Miss Paula when I think of the word courage, right? And you think that as far as people who work with children, Miss Paula has about as few resources as you can imagine, right? I know she's not paid well, I know, but there's one resource, like you can imagine if you're a preschool teacher or teacher that you have, but Miss Paula doesn't, is time. I mean, she gets 5 seconds in each child's life, right? And that's all she has. But there's nothing about what she does that seems to convey that she doesn't feel like she has enough resources. Like she believes, right, either implicitly or explicitly, that 5 minutes or 5 seconds, it doesn't matter. Like she can make use of 5 seconds, right, in the way she knows how. Right? And just believing that there's something about you that you can share that could actually be helpful, right? Even if all you have is 5 seconds of time. Right? And that to me is courage. And the fact that she would do it day in and day out. I mean, there are crossing guards in Pittsburgh who's been on the same street corner to the second decade, right? That they're seeing the children who have grown up to become parents walking through their children through the neighborhood. But yet again, crossing guards is someone you can so easily overlook, right? I mean, they're such a constant presence that if you drive by a street corner, they're there, you don't notice them because they're just there. And crossing guards are noticed by their absence. Children notice the absence of the crossing guard if on a particular day they are not there or a substitute come in, right? And they are the kind of folks that are away from the spotlight. But in Fred's terms, that's when life's most important moments happen. And these little moments feels to me like life's most important moments in that child's day, right, at the beginning of the day. And those are some of the most important moments in Miss Paula's day as well, except it's every day, right, without glamour, without being spectacular. I wanted to share with you just something else that comes more from my field. This was really striking, and I think I thought of that next when I was thinking of courage. A couple of colleagues of mine had a chance last year to work in Buffalo, New York, in the School of Deaf in Buffalo, New York. And this was one of the scenes that they captured. So what you're going to be seeing here is that there's this little boy, his name is Gavin, and he's profoundly autistic, and he is deaf. Right? And he's a little over 2, and he's in the deaf school because his own parents just couldn't figure out how to communicate with Gavin. Gavin can't sign, he has trouble maintaining eye contact. You can imagine, right, all the challenges there. So this was just an ordinary day where Gavin's teacher is just working with Gavin. Gavin's been there for a few months now. And I think what the teacher discovered over time is that one of the things that can draw Gavin's eyes are bubbles. right? So the teacher was trying to do bubbles with Gavin, and the teacher was trying really hard to communicate with Gavin with this sign, which I don't know sign language, but it has something to do with blowing or bubble. So just watch for this hand gesture coming primarily from the teacher, but then keep your eyes on Gavin. And so I'm going to start the clip, but then I just want you to hear what that setting is like, but in a few seconds I'm going to try to turn the volume completely off, because that's Gavin's world, right? And try not to blink, and just keep your eyes on it, okay?
Outside. It's okay. Huh? We're going up top. So, ready? One up top, honey. Oh, we got it on our shirt. I'm sorry. It's washable. I know. It is washable. I know. Don't get mad at me. She's gonna get more. She's not done. You want more? Okay, Sophie, ready? Ready? Just straighten it out for me. Oh, I got it.
So I hope you caught that, right? And on one hand, it just seems so ordinary, right? That even after the moment, it goes on. The day after our team showed these videos, right, to the teacher and staff who worked there, and half of the teacher there were deaf as well. So the workshop has to be signed the whole time. But by the time we got to that, and when that moment came, you can imagine all the teachers in the deaf school just let out a gasp, right? Because they know Gavin, and they know what that moment meant in the life of that child. And that teacher just started crying, right? She didn't cry then, right? She didn't even react in any kind of particular way, but she started crying when she saw that the next day, and she knew, right, what that moment meant. And I was thinking about the courage part, and I was thinking, what is courageous isn't that moment. That moment is sweet and beautiful, right? I think what it feels courageous to me is that if you could just imagine how many hundreds and thousands of moments like that would have to happen in the month before that moment, for that moment to be a reality. And how, in a sense, how unrewarding these other moments may seem to the ordinary person, right? It's exciting, right, to make that moment happen, but just to know that that took the investment of hundreds and thousands of moments in faith, right, with no expectation that this moment would happen at any time, if ever. But just the faith that you have, that even in the absence of satisfying outcomes and satisfying expectations for outcomes, that you can just keep doing that, right? until something like that happen. And what is more miraculous is the fact that our team can show up on a random day in a deaf school, and we would see moments like that from one room to the other. And so then you extrapolate and you think of all the teachers that works at that deaf school and all the hundreds and thousands and tens of thousands of moments they committed themselves to in faith, right? Which is the belief in the absence of evidence, at least evidence as what we can all see it. And that struck me as real courage in the professional context. And so much of our work is about trying to see, to identify, to capture on film, to reflect back to the people in each community, whether they're crossing guards, whether they're in children's hospital, whether they're in classrooms, whether they're in juvenile group homes, right, or in small orphanages overseas, wherever it is that these acts of great kindness and also of great courage in these kind of contexts. And it reminded me of something that Fred often said as what he thought was the most important role that he could have in life, in the neighborhoods. And he called that being a helpful appreciator. That the greatest thing we can do is to find what is healthy and laudable about somebody else and reflect that to them. I really think that's the greatest weapon against any kind of bigotry and racism. It's a large assignment to be able to help people look deep within themselves and find what is wonderful there, because at the core of everyone is someone wonderful. And I wonder if that's what Fred meant when he says, to make goodness attractive, let's bring courage to those whose lives move near our own. I wonder if that's what is really meant by the word encourage. Literally means to bring courage, to help those whose lives move near our own to know that there is something wonderful and beautiful about them, and that when they are spending that 5 seconds helping a child crossing the street, or whether they're spending hundreds and thousands of minutes trying to help a little child, that there's real courage there. I just wanted to end with my 3 minutes of time, just so you have a chance to hear from Fred yourself. And I wanted to hear the actual speech and the context in which Fred framed this question.
Well, this is what I wanted to tell you before I knew that I'd have this great gift tonight. Fame is a 4-letter word. And like tape or Zoom or face or pain or life or love, what ultimately matters is what we do with it. I feel that those of us in television are chosen to be servants. It doesn't matter what our particular job. We are chosen to help meet the deeper needs of those who watch and listen day and night. And television needs to do all it can to broadcast that, to show and tell what the good in life is all about. But how do we make goodness attractive? By doing whatever we can to bring courage to those whose lives move near our own, by treating our neighbor at least as well as we treat ourselves, and allowing that to inform everything that we produce. Who in your life has been such a servant to you? Who has helped you love the good that grows within you? Let's just take 10 seconds to think of some of those people who have loved us and wanted what was best for us in life. Those who have encouraged us to become who we are tonight. Just 10 seconds of silence. I'll watch the time. No matter where they are, either here or in heaven, imagine how pleased those people must be to know that you thought of them right now. We all have only one life to live on earth, and through television, we have the choice of encouraging others to demean this life or to cherish it in creative, imaginative ways. On behalf of all of us at Family Communications and the Public Broadcasting Service, I thank you for all the good that you do in this unique enterprise and for wanting our neighborhood to be a part of this celebration tonight. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
So from Fred's childhood neighborhood, we wish all of you courage. Thank you.